Over the past week, we produced several programs featuring interviews from the recent IRMI Energy Risk and Insurance Conference in Houston. Topics were far-reaching, from the sluggish economy and government regulation to new technologies and fracking, and of course, environmental risk and pollution liability insurance. In this review, we highlight some of the memorable comments from the conference, a must-see for energy risk professionals.
The most unique challenges facing risk managers in the energy sector today are the technology changes, as well as the advent and proliferation of hydraulic fracturing. That's been a game changer for the risk profile of every oil and gas company.
The industry is going through a phase of great development and new technology. Hydraulic fracking is obviously a relatively new technique, and that's causing a lot of concern amongst insurers.
How they deal with industry, how they deal with individuals, landholders, because of some of the fervor around fracking, it's created a different dichotomy.
But the EPA is also promulgating regulations. One of the areas that they focused on has been air pollution issues, which is something that really had not been looked at before, but they now have new regulations and new standards that the industry is going to have to meet. I believe most of these come into effect by 2015.
The recent court decisions overturning the additional insured status for BP and now having access to the Transocean policy, which is, to be honest, a game changer for the industry. So it's making us all have to reassess our policy terms and conditions and reevaluate.
Insurers, what they did after Macondo was start to look at inwardly at what they have on their books and realize that if this had been a really serious situation with BP having been insured, and even as it is, they're insuring a number of clients on the same rigs and therefore having to pay out multiple times on the same loss.
I think some of what's been thrown out there I've heard it phrased as junk science as to whether or not we damage aquifers through that process. But then again, you buy a dedicated pollution program that is gradual in nature. Basically, it's a claims-made format. At least gives you a level of security to recover legal defenses. Because ultimately, I think that's what it may boil down to.
There's always a blind, yellow-bellied, critter out there that somebody's going to come up with that could always put a moratorium on drilling, and that's has a traumatic effect on the energy business across the board. Not just E&P companies or drilling companies, but your secondary and tertiary outfits that are gaining profit from that. It's a pretty big issue, and it really rests mostly on our shoulders of how we're going to respond to those things.
And so they're taking proactive steps even beyond what the regulators are requiring, and in fact sometimes they are in advance of the regulators. So I think that's a good sign, and maybe people don't understand how hard the industry is working.
We'd like to thank IRMI for their support and hospitality in Houston, and a special thanks to WebCE for sponsoring our coverage. If you'd like information about future events on our editorial calendar, visit our website. I'm Marisa Christian. Join us next time for more World Risk and Insurance News right here on RIN TV.